There's reparations, and then there's whatever the hell Olympia, Washington is doing. As we've learned with the city of Olympia, if progressives do this much, Olympia has to do 10 times more. They have to prove that they are the wokest, the most righteous, the most ideologically driven. So you see all these nutso things happen in Olympia, but unfortunately, one of the consequences of that is whenever there's an uber progressive policy or action that a city in Washington state might undertake, then you start to see it go elsewhere, and then you start to see it go into the state house in Olympia, and then all of a sudden they pass laws that the rest of us have to live by, and then Washington State or Oregon or California passes a law, and then Democrats on the other side of the country start to look at it and say, oh, that's a very cool idea. We should try that here. And then before we know it, the entire country is in the gutter. So let's break down what's happening in Olympia, Washington, to see if we can prevent it from happening elsewhere. So as always, whenever an idea pops into a public servant's mind, they have to study it, and they have to use your money to study it. So the city of Olympia spent a bunch of money commissioning a study on how they could make right the wrongs of the past against African Americans in this country. So, of course, the obvious answer that you would hear from progressives is reparations. You know, let's pay people back for the harm that was done to them all those long years ago that taxpayers today had nothing in the world to do with. But that's sort of the base level of what progressives want to do. And we already know that in Washington state, they passed a statewide reparations program that new home buyers are paying into here as we speak. But Olympia wants to do more. They have to do more. So they do this research and they present this long list of potential ideas where not only when it comes to home ownership, but when it comes to every facet of society, how to push people, white people or other, Asians, you can't help Asians at all either, push them down and try to lift the right people of color up. So I got to go through, there's a lot of detail here, but it's absolutely insane, the long list of just racist ideas that the city of Olympia is pushing forth as a way to help the Black community. So I'm going to go through them topic by topic, but let's start with housing, right? Because that seems to be where everyone starts. Housing and land ownership. So they've got a long list, we just have a few of them here, of things that they're suggesting they could push forward or fund with taxpayer money specifically to help Black people. Remember, specifically to help Black people and no one else. So allocate $1.25 million to affordable housing preservation and to be able to make sure they have money for home repairs and down payment assistance, housing choice vouchers to pay for their mortgages, create a land acquisition program for future development, create a new dollar lot program where parcels of reparations land are set aside for a bid process for aspiring Black homeowners. Okay. Provide support for owners of heirs of property and help families build generational wealth. Provide mortgage and public rent relief. Create a loan pool, assist existing homeowners in substantially African American neighborhoods. So basically every facet of home ownership or land ownership, they want to help Black people and African Americans with. Okay, let's move on to education and workforce development. Some other ideas that they have to help the Black community in Olympia. So first, of course, it starts with a blanket. City leadership and employees at all levels will increase awareness, knowledge, and shared commitment to anti-racism. They also want to explore providing additional mental health support for students of color, internship and mentorship programs with the goal of professional development and job placement for Black youth. Okay, hold regular implicit bias and racial equity training for school district faculty and staff. Recruit and retain more Black educators in the city and the county. Create awareness and understanding among all school staff of institutionalized racism and other biases that serve as barriers to achievements for students of color. All right, let's see. Increase on a yearly basis the number and percentage of skilled school staff who reflect the racial makeup of the student population, and invite speakers to address student bodies on racial justice and white privilege. That's what I want to hear, is you inviting speakers who you're probably going to pay during a time where we're supposed to believe schools are underfunded to come and talk to the student body about racial justice and white privilege. Cool. All right, we're not done yet with this long list of ideas. Economic empowerment and business development. So support Black-owned businesses, including with grants of up to $100,000 in multi-year funding. Offer personal tax reductions provide grants to Black-owned businesses, establish a private fund for reparations, provide direct cash payments to individuals harmed by racial discrimination. The city would establish a 90% guarantee fund for any kind of real estate loans, establish a Black-owned bank within the city. It's not enough to just give them money. You got to have that money coming from a Black-owned bank. The city would also provide a guaranteed minimum income fund indexed to the cost of living for Black residents. So just wrap your mind around this. So they're not only talking about reparations, they're talking about cash payments for Black people from a Black-owned bank that they'll create, a guaranteed minimum income. So that's just a UBI, right? Universal basic income, but only for Black residents, and even tax reductions and deductions. For the color of your skin. You would get a tax break based on your skin pigmentation in the city of Olympia. Like, how are they going to do that? I always think of that old Peter Griffin Family Guy chart where it's like a chart of skin colors. Are they just going to hold it up next to you and be like, okay, yep, you're dark enough. You qualify for a tax deduction? It's wild stuff. Doesn't stop there. They also, of course, want to dive into viable criminal justice and social equity reparations. So they would provide assistance to residents for the expungement of cannabis charges, eliminate the cash bail and bond system by city ordinance, eliminate barriers to housing to allow justice-involved persons with criminal convictions to apply for and retain housing, included but not limited to public housing, the elimination of traffic stops based solely on equipment infractions by the police department and sheriff's office, community-based review board with subpoena power to examine misconduct among officers. Yeah, that will go over well, having a community-based board that has subpoena power to investigate what it deems to be violations of civil rights by law enforcement. I'm sure that wouldn't be weaponized for political purposes. And then also they're looking at the healthcare realm as a part of overall well-being in their reparations program. So there would be a healthcare subsidy for Black people. So basically in the city of Olympia, whether it's business, whether it's residential, whether it's just giving you money, whether it's helping out with your health care, the city of Olympia wants to wrap its arms around Black residents, not you white resident, get out of here, wrap its arms around its Black residents and help them in every facet of life. So thank you for thinking that was funny, Nicole. I appreciate that.
That was good.
Nicole's the only one who laughs at me. You have to laugh so you don't cry. Mm-hmm. So this is all kind of par for the course for Olympia, right? All these ideas are sort of crazy. It's being spearheaded in part by the city's mayor, who's Black. His name is Dante Payne, and he spoke with King 5 News about the importance of them looking at all of these things.
I do feel a sense of obligation to say something and weigh in and take action on this issue. The way I see this is we're planting seeds. So this is long-term work that I see as it's not all going to get done in my time as mayor. It's a conversation that Black Americans have been having for centuries at this point. It all started with 40 acres and a mule that was never provided to help build that intergenerational wealth for Black Americans.
Planting seeds of racism is what they're trying to do. You know, I was thinking about this morning, actually. I don't know why it popped into my mind, maybe because I knew we were going to talk about this on the show today. This is the first time where I've ever really been concerned in my lifetime about racial tensions in this country. In the sense that, because I feel like everything that's happening is leading to these deep divisions that really didn't exist to this extent before. I mean, there's always been racism, of course, and I'm not going to act like this country doesn't have a very troubling history when it comes to racism for a long time. So I've never acted like those things aren't a problem. But I felt like in my lifetime, things were going in the right direction. Everything was going in the right direction where people loved each other. You didn't give a whole lot of thought to race or, you know, racial tensions or anything like that. And now it's like, wow, they really are trying to make I feel like they're trying to make white people hate Black people. I feel like they're trying to make white people, what's the word I'm looking for? Resent Black people. And so it's almost like they want, I mean, you guys, it's racism in the opposite sense. So they're kind of bringing us back. What they want is punishment, right? what they want is retribution. But they want it against people who are no longer alive, who did all these horrible things to black people in this country. And so they want this retribution that they can never really get for the wrongs of this country. And so now they want to just punish you and punish me and punish people who, have never owned a slave, who never engaged in discriminatory practices in any form or fashion. So it's just wild. So I feel like they want there to be racial division. So the fact that our country was heading towards this better place where racial divisions weren't as pronounced was bothersome to them because they want there to be racial division, this us versus them. It's very strange. So anyway, all of this in the city of Olympia, we're used to crazy out of the city of Olympia. But the reason I wanted to start the show with it today is there was a guy who found himself on the commission reviewing all these policies. His name is Jeremy Ruse. And and I'll let him explain it in a moment. He's joining us. But he basically wanted to get involved in what was happening in his city. He's an Olympia resident. He's a business owner. He wanted to be part of the conversation and maybe trying to steer Olympia back to a place of sanity. And so he found himself on the Social Justice and Equity Commission. What's really interesting is it was the Social Justice and Equity Commission that ended up getting presented with like a $44,000 research study to look into all these possible options for how to improve the lives of black people in the city of Olympia. And what Jeremy found out really quickly is that they didn't really want to have a debate about this. They didn't really want to discuss the merits of any of the ideas that were put forth. They just wanted everyone on the commission to shut their mouths, to sign off on it, and to say, this is a really, really good thing. Well, Jeremy Ruse is not the kind of guy to shut his mouth and simply sign off on something. And so he expressed some concern. As you might guess, his concerns were not met by positivity. So Jeremy was nice enough to join us on the show today to talk about his experience being part of this commission for racial equity and also his experience amongst the commission pushing back against some of these ideas. Jeremy, welcome to Undivided.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so how'd you end up on this commission?
So in the fall, the city of Olympia had sent out a flyer or an email discussing the different commissions that were available. I was pretty adamant about wanting to get involved in the city more, and the Social Justice and Equity Commission was one that was available, so I applied. And then in March, I interviewed, and March 13th, I believe, I was asked to be as part of the commission.
Gotcha. And I don't know really anything about your politics other than you're willing to speak out about this issue. So were you, frankly, whenever I see the word equity or anything or social justice, I'm always worried about what the government's going to do with that. Did you have any misgivings about the title of the commission?
So a little bit. So we have a mixed family.
Mm-hmm.
We have a pretty ethnically diverse family. And honestly, when I first joined the commission, I wasn't sure what to expect. But I am a little more conservative than maybe some of the other people on the commission, and I wanted to bring that to the meetings. I wanted to bring a different perspective, so that's really why I was excited to join.
Yeah. Sorry, this is an inartful question, but I think it's relevant. Mixed race family. What races are we talking about?
So I come from a Hispanic background,
Okay.
And then my wife is mixed Black and Italian. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that makes sense. And I think it's relevant, again, to the conversation we're going to have. So you joined this commission. You want to bring this perspective into it. We've seen some of the things that the commission is now considering in the way of reparations and other things. When they started talking about some of this stuff, like the reparations, how did that strike you?
So we were given a really short timeline. The first onboarding meeting that we had was April 21st, and then April 28th, I believe, was when the reparations meeting was scheduled. My initial reaction was, I had reservations, but I wanted to look through the packet of information that they provided and see what the intent was. And then after reading the paperwork, it wasn't consistent with what I believed was in the best interest of the city. So I went into the meeting knowing that I was probably going to be the odd man out, if you will.
Yeah. So Nicole had a conversation with you before this interview, and she explained to me a little bit of what happened that I want you to talk to our viewers and listeners about. So you were presented with a packet of information. My understanding, this is like what, research or a study or information done on whether these policies would be beneficial?
So what the city did is the city contracted a third party.
Okay.
They did a 30-day study on different cities across the country and what the recommendation would be for reparation policies and how to implement them, what they felt was the best practice to be able to use the reparations. Now, it was very clearly stated that it was not intended to discuss whether or not they were relevant or whether or not or how to finance them, but it was absolutely, it was about 100 pages long. And like I said, it was intended to discuss things like assisted business ownership or home ownership or, property acquirement, things of that nature.
Yeah, and so you're presented with all this information, relatively short timeline, and my understanding is you're basically told, we want to know what you like, not what you don't like.
So it was very clearly stated at the beginning of the paperwork. It said to only focus on the areas that were highlighted within the study, and then also to bring positive engagement, the things that you felt were you felt like were the best interest of the reparations. And that's where it really became a problem with me. I mean, I felt like that was kind of condescending. I'm of the opinion that if you're going to engage the community, you should hear the good and the bad, because I don't think that I don't think that this is in the best interest of the people of the city of Olympia. But like I said, I thought it was really guiding, and I didn't feel like that was the best approach in my opinion. Plus, we only had a 2-hour window to discuss this, so I felt like decisions had already been made. So I kind of addressed that in our meeting.
So it sort of seems like they didn't really want your opinion on it; they just wanted your sign off.
It was my opinion that that's all they were looking for. I absolutely believe that. I mean, given the scope of the work and given the nature of the circumstance, I mean, it's a pretty big conversation, and I don't think it's something that happens. Especially there were, I believe at the time we had combined Zoom and in person, probably 10 or 11 people. That's a really short window. I mean, honestly, I felt like they put it in front of the commission so that they could say that they did.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you decide to say something about it. Brave man. What do you say and to whom, and how was it received?
So they had broken us up into groups, and we discussed it. And the guy that I was in a group with, I told him that I didn't have support for it. And I mean, we had a good conversation about it. He was fantastic. But when it came to me, I just presented the fact that I did not feel like this was relevant for the city. I feel like the city has bigger priorities. I felt like this was bigger than the city of Olympia, and not in a I wasn't trying to be derogatory, but I stated that I believe that this is a political move. I think that it is a topic that is very easy to get behind because it's very volatile, and I felt like I said, I just didn't feel like it was representative of the community. And I told the mayor that I felt like this was, with the intent of getting votes. I mean, it's something that will bring media attention if it's perpetuated, and it's something that, will perpetuate his political career if he chooses to stand on this. And I do believe that that's the case. And he wasn't very receptive to that.
What do you mean by wasn't very receptive?
So after we were taking turns going around the room, and I was the last one, and he came after me. And he told me that he was offended. He was offended by my statements. He said that as the first Black mayor of Olympia, he felt like that he was entitled, and I believe that was the word, don't hold me to that, but that this was a priority of his that meant a lot to him. And I don't necessarily agree with that. We had some conversation back and forth. At some point, he had stated that I said something and I didn't, and I didn't appreciate that. And that's where it really kind of degraded the conversation, because I told him very clearly, even someone else in the room stated that I had never said that, but he was insinuating I had no right to be to make remarks or make decisions about reparations, which I thought was odd, because at the end of the day, that's why we were invited into that room, was to give our opinions. And the opinion was contrary to his, so therefore he didn't like it. I mean, he just did not like it at all. And I have since reached out to him. I sent him an email to try to, kind of mend the bridge. I do have intentions of staying on this commission, and I want to have a positive impact on it, but I have not heard back from him. So I don't know if he didn't receive it. You never know with email. It's kind of tough. I'm sure he's a busy man. So
yeah. So when you say, he was accusing you of saying things that you didn't say, or that you didn't, twisting your words, was he suggesting you were being racist, or?
That was kind of the difficult part of walking away from that conversation. Like I said, he said that I had no right to make a decision about reparations. And I'll be candid, my emotions got a little involved. I try to really, control that, but I don't ever like having somebody put words into my mouth. But I had pointed out earlier in the conversation that I believe that there are deeper seated issues that have to be addressed. And I wasn't the only one. One of the other commissioners had made a comment that one of the things that they're proposing is to give away parcels of property. And one of the other commissioners had stated that if they're going to do that, there needs to be a certain stipulation that goes along with that to educate people on how to manage it and how to be successful with it. And I stated very similar points, but from a different perspective. I've had a significant interaction with people of culture in my world. So, I've seen the good things and I've seen some bad things. And I pointed out, if we don't cure the root problems, where does the value lie? I also stated that I do not believe that this is a local issue. And he himself had even commented on the fact that the federal government owed descendants of slavery reparations. And that really contradicted his point of trying to implement it at the city level.
Yeah.
I didn't call him on that because, like I said, we had gotten the conversation had kind of degraded to that point. But I would tend to agree with him on that. I mean, I don't think that this is a local conversation. And like I said, a lot of the talking points that I brought up, he just didn't. He was very aggressive about contradicting them. So
yeah. So I guess, what did you learn from this experience? I mean, you're an Olympia resident. You're a business owner. You have raised, I think, have you had 3 kids go through Olympia School District?
So I have 3 that are 3 adult children and one in the getting ready to go into the 6th grade.
Yeah. So you're, a part of the community. You wanted to be part of these conversations and joined this commission. And I guess to have your thoughts and viewpoints received in that way, how frustrating is that?
I'm 52. I've been around. So, I mean, I didn't have my feelings hurt so much, I would tell you that a lot of the things that I believe you hear that are hyperbole or that people, put out there, they were verified in this. I mean, I was really disappointed in the fact that if I was in his shoes, I would not have become defensive. I would have had an open conversation. I would have maybe explained my points a little bit better. Maybe tried to, encourage that conversation so that I would have a better understanding as a constituent of what he was trying to accomplish. And the fact that he never did that was really unfortunate. I think the part that really bothers me is there was a post that was put out by one of our local individuals who very publicized, and he was commenting on how inclusive Mayor Payne was. This was after I had this meeting, and how, Mayor Payne had given a speech about how, he wants to work with both sides and he wants to hear the arguments and he wants to hear the conversations. And he absolutely did not in that night, and I'm not going to say that he wasn't having a bad night, or you never know what the circumstances are, but I did not have that. I had the exact opposite of that. And that is really disappointing. And I mean, I know that, people are busy. It's really easy to not be involved or understand what's going on in your local politics. But when you have an interaction like that, it really reinforces a negative, stigma. I mean, he didn't want to hear anything. And that's really unfortunate. And I mean, the fact that I reached out to him and he didn't reply, it just really, it makes me, to be honest with you, it motivates me even more to get more involved. And that's difficult to do for a lot of people. So myself included, everybody's busy, but it definitely lights a fire.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You must be a glutton for punishment, because now you're running for the Olympia School Board.
I am. Absolutely.
That's the belly of the beast.
Yeah. And I mean, that's okay though.
Crazy. You're crazy.
I told a shared friend of ours convinced me that this was a really good idea. And since I've started running, I don't second guess it. It's a challenge, but I'm one of those people that I love a challenge. I really do. I've always been, we've been successful as a family because we'll put the work in, and I'm willing to do that now. I really am. The school board needs some direction, and, it won't happen overnight, but if we can get the right people in place, I keep telling everybody, we have 13 years to educate our children. We can't let politics and ideology drive that, because it changes overnight. Depending on, which way the wind blows, ideologies will change. We have to maintain consistency. And unfortunately, Not excessive, but we had an unfortunate circumstance with our daughter in the fourth grade with a teacher. And luckily we're active parents. So we got involved and we shut it down pretty quick, but there's no place for that. I mean, kids need consistent education. We need to have thoughtful policy. We need to make sure that we're taking care of them. And right now I don't feel like that's the case. So, I mean, I'm passionate about it and I believe in it.
Well, good for you. Good for you. I mean, and again, as a business owner, I mean, you making the time to get involved and do these things. I wish more people would do it. I understand why they don't. You do have to be a little crazy, which I don't know you, but I'm going to assume you're a little, but good for you for doing it because, again, I think Olympia is ground zero for a lot of these really misguided policies and ideologically driven decisions. And so if you can be a part of fixing that, by all means, sir. So appreciate you doing that and joining us.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So that's Jeremy Ruse, the poor citizen who just wanted to get involved in helping his community, ended up on the Social Justice and Equity Commission, and was basically told since he's not black, he should sit there, shut his mouth, and just accept all their ideas around racist reparations. So we appreciate him, again, going into the belly of the beast, now running for school board, and sharing with us his experience behind the scenes as a white presenting man. Because he's part Hispanic, right? Looks white. White presenting man. Who was on an equity commission and didn't go very well. Shock that his ideas weren't readily accepted or listened to.